Hello, I'm Will Garside, and welcome to this IT Europa webinar sponsored by Cloud Billing. So let's set the scene. Many enterprises are moving away from working directly with hyperscalers due to the complexity of managing an increasingly hybrid IT landscape. Instead, many are turning to MSPs to deliver a complete offering within a secure and cost-effective framework. Effective billing is absolutely critical for these MSPs, and not just for the cloud, but for a whole host of connected services. So with us, we have two innovators in this space from both sides of the fence. Let's welcome Merin from Cloud Billing and Simon Safadine from ANS. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, Will.
I will.
So before we kick off and dive into it, for those that don't know you, tell us a bit about Cloud Billing, Merin.
Yeah, so my name is Marijn Schipper. I've been working at Cloud Billing for almost 9 years now, starting off as an implementation consultant actually, but now active as a sales manager where I can combine my technical background with my love of consultative selling. And Cloud Billing is actually a Dutch tech company that back in 2009 pioneered by supporting the first software as a service companies by implementing innovative billing solutions. And since then, we've expanded our services into to other industries with the widespread adoption of the cloud. Since 2015, our main focus has been on helping MSPs tackle their cloud billing challenges.
Wonderful. I mean, for those that don't, in the UK, we know ANS, but for those that don't, Simon, tell us about ANS.
So my name's Simon Safadine. I'm the Director of Technical Transformation for ANS Group. ANS Group is, over the last 2 years, is a merging of three companies. ANS traditionally in UK Fast in Manchester, and then more recently, we've merged with another company called Preact in the cloud space. We're an MSP CSP. I've been in the business for 13 years, pretty much in this technical area. And over the last last space, we've been really dominant in the Microsoft ecospace. We're backed by a private equity firm at the minute, which is really helping us accelerate our growth. And this is why part of the challenge, that why we're here and why we work with Cloud Billing, is that additional support.
Okay, now between the two of you, you are probably, absolute subject matter experts in the world of billing. And let's make no bones about this. Billing is fundamental to every service partners deliver. You need to be able to charge somebody for this service. But as way of an introduction, let's look at the broader market, Merin. What is the size and scope of this? What does it look like in terms of partners billing for services?
Right. So what we're seeing ever since we started venturing into the public cloud market space actually is that public cloud adoption is still accelerating. The cloud services market was strong, is still strong, and we've seen it, and we've seen that with our customers as well, that are growing 20% year over year. There's a big movement away from on-premises services towards more the software as a service oriented and cloud services, which seems that organizations are becoming more and more confident in security controls around the cloud, which was still still is a very important topic. Yeah. And the adoption of the multi-cloud in general is what we're seeing. Also within MSPs is becoming a very important theme, is that the customers of the MSPs, they have a stronger vision on how they want to use the cloud. They also sometimes employ multiple MSPs for different expertise areas, and these MSPs often specialize in one cloud, and that's changing as well, where we see more and more adopting multiple clouds, the Googles, the Microsofts, AWS as a partner, to be able to fully service their customers.
Yeah. I saw a statistic recently that said, this was a UK statistic, so apologies for if you're not in the UK. Cloud and digital transformation last year was worth 16 billion. It's got a 24% compound annual growth rate up until 2030. To put that in some kind of scope, telecoms is doing about 8% growth. So, just the move to the cloud is so fundamental. I saw another stat, 1 in 4, if you're on this call, you're an MSP, 1 in 4 of your customers will move to the cloud this year for a large majority of their infrastructure. It's such a fundamental shift. I mean, Simon, you guys are, I'm saying at the coal face, but you do a lot of that at the moment. You told me once you had a client that has 6 different cloud things, wrong technical term, that you're having to create billing for.
Yeah, so we're like a leader in the Microsoft cloud space. We have stuff in AWS as well. The kind of comment the customer there, we have a customer that is on-prem with us, in one of our private clouds, in AWS with us, in Azure with us, and then some other aspects in co-location, and then most of the managed services is run through ourselves as well. And they are doing a massive digital transformation at the minute. I mean, if you ask our sales and kind of delivery team, we see customers like really driving for the end of this year and then really start next year to try and drive cloud and digital into their business.
Okay, I mean, you guys are a provider. You're both a consumer of cloud and a provider of cloud. You've got partners, you actively work with partners. When you talk to your partners, what are the challenges that they face when it comes to billing?
So the biggest thing that we see is like the simplification of billing itself. Billing is probably, when you're looking and signing, especially cloud and digital, the whole prospect of what you want to do and deliver, billing probably doesn't come into that context. But it does for the customer. When they have got to pay a bill, when that invoice comes in play, that's the most important bit to get right, because it's not taking concept in that journey, but it's also what needs to be signed off at the end. And just to give an example of us, when we merged, we have 3, so we'll call it business units. There's 3 business units. Each of those has got Azure and AWS in its own accounts. Then we have other multiple accounts in there as well. So our finance team was just running around chasing invoices, not sure exactly which P&L to put it against, for example. And just trying to simplify the billing process is one of probably the best choices that we've done as a business, so we can then focus our resources on the internal projects, the customer itself, because everybody knows you get that bill wrong and it's years to bring back that confidence in the customer again.
Yeah, and also let's be really honest. They don't care if it's an issue with Microsoft or with Azure or AWS. If somebody sells me a pair of shoes, I'm going to have a go at the person who sold me the shoes. I mean, we talk a bit. I mean, there's an understanding that enterprises have moved to the cloud, but we are seeing a lot more of the mid-market now. But it's not just cloud. Now, Merrin, I know that you guys, cloud billing is in your name, but I know you do a lot of stuff that is not like necessarily IT services. Where are you also seeing growth in the requirement for billing from service providers?
It's so one of the top challenges that service providers are struggling with is just the complexity in general. They're dealing with, in some cases, 30, 40, 50 different vendors that they are using to service their customers. And all those vendors, they all have their own structures and services, commercial models, and incentive structures, and they provide very little support when it comes to billing. And then at MSP, you preferably want to consolidate something, all those vendors, all those services into one neat package that is clear and insightful towards your end customer as an invoice. And as you just mentioned, the customers, they don't really care what's on the invoice. It needs to be correct.
Yeah.
It needs to be insightful. They need to know what they're paying for. And that's where the struggles come from. It's understanding what they're paying for, and how that's structured and how that's growing over time is a big issue. And a lot of times the billing problem itself, it's the owner is a single person, maybe a couple of different persons that are in different departments, and they do it manually. And notoriously bad when it comes to copying, pasting, and changing things in Excel, let's be honest, to conjure up a bill. And one of the exceptional skills of customers is spotting inconsistencies and issues in invoices. And at the same time, turning a blind eye when there's stuff missing that they know they should be paying for.
Absolutely. So just to point out, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function in Zoom. We can't see the chat, but we can see Q&A. So please ask a question if you want to trip up Simon or Marion. Not too technical, but more like businessy type stuff. Please feel free to ask them. So we talked a bit about complexity being an issue, but another thing that I've noticed is the speed of change, particularly within IT. I think, was it you, Simon, told me that there are something like 16,000 SKUs in AWS alone of products and combinations, and was it you, Mary? One of you told me this, and I thought
that was me,
right, but apparently
on
it
an
is.
intro. So that was just what my copy buffer pulled out of one of our services that we use when we're querying between AWS and Azure. My copy buffer ran out at 160,000. Now, that's not just one single column, but there was 160,000 products, SKUs within the ecospace actually that we can sell to our customer base.
Right.
And that's ever changing.
And it's this speed of change, particularly in cloud, is daily, hourly, weekly. I mean, I look at some of the applications that we use, the office applications of the world, the licensing changes, the offering changes, the products change. I mean, this speed of change, at your side, Simon, you're trying to implement this. How are you managing to keep up with this continual change?
I mean, we find it difficult to start. I mean, even this year, Microsoft's made a number of changes in great ways, like the licensing model, they're making more simplified. But we, as a team, can't just keep throwing resources, our finance team generally, or our licensing team, just to go off and review these changes. So one big one's the Microsoft NCE change from last year, which is being enforced this year coming. And we rely on, right now, and this is the partnership we do with Cloud Billing, they do all that hard work. So we see Cloud Billing as almost an extension to our finance and operations team rather than a third-party provider, right? ISO and everything else on the side, we do see Cloud Billing as that extension of our team, and they do all that heavy lifting for us. And through the API suite, we just see that as the invoicing mechanism, and that's the best thing that when we partner with somebody like Cloud Billing, that we reduce our R&D time, and we actually use that to enhance customer services that we want to do.
Okay. I'm going to do a quick poll now just to find out what you guys think, because it's always interesting, particularly for me, to work out what you think. So let's go to my more polls. Here we go. Look how technical I am. So just to get your feedback, this is not scientific, but it'd be good to find out what you guys think when it comes to billing. Billing is a huge area. We know that as we move more to services, we're moving away from these big projects with a fixed budget to a recurring OPEX model. We've seen that. I mean, there's no way that that's going to change. So the polls are coming in. I feel like I'm one of those race commentators now. So we've built our own in-house bespoke one. Is about a quarter. A quarter of you are not involved in this area. Yeah, join the club. And it's evenly split. We use a platform similar to Cloud Billing is 10% of you, okay? Right, I'm going to round this poll as to there's more people answering. When I get to 100, I'm going to stop because there's 300 of you on this webinar, so I'm going to stop at 100. Oh, it's coming in. A few more seconds. 95, 96, 97. Come on, get to 100. Right, I'm going to end the poll now, and I'm going to share the results so we can all see. So, Simon, Marion, it's interesting that there's no clear winner in this. Does that surprise you that it wasn't all like one option or another?
No,
I think that's the poll. Actually, what I'm looking at right now is actually very common. We were probably in a very similar journey where we went from not using anything, using our own, just the cloud providers. Then we went to another billing mechanism. We had our own in-house built one as well, but then as soon as you start to consume other services, you can see how quickly that expands. And then this is why we moved to Cloud Billing, for example. So again,
I'm interested in the we use existing tools provided by the hyperscaler. Now, I'm assuming then that's fine, Marion, in your perspective. If you're just using one hyperscaler, nothing else, use their tool, that kind of makes sense. But is that without upsetting anybody over AWS or Azure, what are their tools typically like for billing?
it depends. It's and most of it on the functionality you require really depends on your use cases as a business. What do you want to offer your customer? How does the invoice look like? And how much of that the other vendors that are not necessarily the Azures and the Googles are also required to be consolidated on that invoice. And some businesses make the decision that they're happy with sending 3-4 different invoices each month, splitting up those different services. And others have their stuff really well in order by building something themselves. What we do see often is that introduces risk in the sense of the ongoing maintenance that can be a very big monetary risk in some cases. There's one use case years ago that we saw that they had their own self-built solution that broke down and they weren't able to invoice for 2 months. That's tricky. And others is that the self-built solution relied on a couple of internal experts, and those people, they leave, they retire, and that's when errors, risk starts creeping in.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory. Let's dive down into cloud billing, because again, you want me known to everybody. So how do you help with some of these challenges that we've talked about around complexity and rapid pace of change? What do you guys do?
So as a business, we've almost fully specialized on the business of MSPs. So we really understand how they operate, how their business model works, and in what types of ecosystem they are working with. And that's where our platform and often are also our expertise as people that we have comes into play. And we start by simplifying the entire ecosystem and process and try to automate as much as possible. So we have standard integrations for Microsoft, for AWS, for Google, also for the private cloud with VMware. But as I said, there can be up to 50 different vendors that you need to start measuring and automating your data collection, setting up a data platform that funnels everything that's required and relevant for billing into a tool like ours. And that's where our expertise comes in, being able to dissect the extraordinary agreements that sales made, how that translates into data requirements, and also making sure that everything in between is covered, because the invoicing, the financial side, touches on so many things. You have service managers, account managers that want to have that insight for reporting. The invoice needs to be correct and needs to go to the financial systems. Payment collection needs to be taken care of and supported in some ways. That entire ecosystem, we are very in tune with how it works and can provide that expert role to simplify the entire process. As a result, we often find that the notoriously bad manual tasks that we see lead to surprising amounts of revenue leakage, for instance.
Okay. There was a question in Q&A which popped up and disappeared, but I'll go to the thing. I will reframe this, Timothy, because you made one point, but integration with those financial systems. Do you integrate with them? Do you have to then pass that data manually? Thank you, Timothy. It's a good question. How do you integrate with these financial systems that every company uses?
So what's really interesting, for instance, is also the use case for ANS, and what we've seen with other businesses is when you merge different companies, you often have to deal with different financial systems. Different general ledger systems. So we have a very flexible system where we can naturally set up the different business units in cloud billing and associate every relevant customer with it to map all the revenue that flows through that set of customers onto the required, let's call them just general ledger codes, and push that to a couple of the general ledger systems. We don't have active integrations with all of them, but we generally have our APIs at the ready that can support with the exports of all that data that is ready to be imported into a financial system.
Okay. I like you, Simon, as a sort of, again, at the coal face, what does that look like from a day to day? You've built with cloud billing, you've built these systems, you've integrated multiple products, merged three companies into one. What does that feel like on a day to day basis? And talk us through that journey a little bit of getting to 3 to 1.
I can tell you the starting journey was, I mean, I know the finance team will probably voice it a bit more abruptly, but the starting challenge was definitely like Mount Everest, because we have customers in 3 different sections that we're now under one brand, one business, and everybody has one invoice has to go out. So with 3 different sales systems, ledger systems, that became fairly complex. And actually, we're still moving one of the systems as we speak. But that's the art with cloud billing. It's the standard. So cloud billing does a lot of the work, and then we work with cloud billing, and almost through the APIs, we move it from one ledger to another one with our migration team or our transformation office that I work in internally. So the constant actually for us is cloud billing. So as we're doing these huge transformational projects, especially one in the finance team where we're moving ledgers, we know that the cloud billing data, because we do a lot of work with them on validation, we know that's solid. So that when we're doing our migration, we know that actually the customer's not getting double billed, we're not moving everything over. And as we get into one system, which again, cloud billing really, really supports us with in this journey that we've been doing, we know that the customer is never going to see the difference. They don't even know we're doing this transformation project, for example. All they see is like the slight invoice lookout was different than it was a year ago. And that's just the artificial piece, right? The numbers and everything else is the same, or we've improved because we learn more as well. But the constant that we have within ANS is that cloud billing is the same. And that when we work with them, they help us transition the kind of the data, the ledgers, the customers specifically, and then making sure that again, that invoice goes out just as we expect. Okay.
And just to clarify as well, because you also have partners. You are an implementation partner yourself, but you also work with partners. Have you built a billing platform that's sort of multi-tenanted? Can you do like almost, I don't know what the term is, it fractional billing, where what you're being billed and what someone else is being billed? Is that possible?
I mean, that's what we do now with cloud billing. So I'm not sure how much detail I can go into, but we have indirect billing mechanisms when that's partners outside of the Microsoft ecospace. For example, there will be an indirect billing with some of the customers that we have inherited. Then we have direct with Microsoft, for example, and then that all gets funneled through cloud billing, and then through a number of different rule sets that we have set in, works out how it's itemized on the bill, right? So the customer can see, I've got an indirect model here, I've got a direct piece here, and I've got on-prem, and it's just really nice and slick from our customer base. And again,
effectively, the customer gets a bill that says, this is what we've charged you, this is why you've charged you, this is what you've consumed, this is where it's come from, and not a dozen separate invoices.
Because I think at the start of the call, somebody mentioned, they're very quick to find an item either overcharged or not sure on a bill, and that causes a huge amount of work for our finance team if they have to go back because they have to validate. It could be pounds in some cases to check. To validate. But actually, what we try and do is standardize that for the customer base just to be able to go check that. And 9 times out of 10 there's nothing to do. No, it's actually accurate because cloud billing's APIs and the suite will pull that data in as it is.
Okay. So we were toying with the idea of doing a demo, but we thought a demo on billing software, it's like click a button, oh look, here's a bill. We didn't think it'd be the most exciting demo. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run one last poll, which will be clear when I run the poll, because look at how good I am at technology. Clicking on the word poll, going back. Right, so this is to get some feedback from the audience out there. I'm going to let this poll run. So just in summary, okay, some of the things that we've discussed today. Complexity is an issue. Speed of change is an issue. We've seen from our first poll that there's a lot of options. Do it yourself, do it manually, don't do it at all. Let everything sit inside the hyperscalers billing engine. I mean, if you were going to give some advice to an MSP who's watched this and thought, you know what, yeah, we need to sort our billing out. And Maren, you can't just say, buy our stuff, we'll fix it all. But just some generic advice. What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking, yeah, we've got a problem with billing? Where should they start? What should be the starting point to find out if they actually have got a problem?
Actually it's a data problem that they have. You get your data cleaned up. That's where you need to start. It's the different data sources, as we call them, for billing. You need to get them in order. You need to be able to tell what's actually being used in order to be able to invoice that correctly. That's where you should start.
Yeah, so start with the data. That's a great bit of advice. Simon, you've been down this road. Starting point. What advice would you give?
If you've already got a system in place, I would still do discovery. I mean, and with the first poll, we said they already use something similar to cloud billing. Well, so did we before we went to cloud billing. The generally two mainstream ones that you see out there. And we have moved away from them just because they didn't fit the exact needs that we had, because we had kind of those different business units and kind of requirements which we wanted to standardize. And if you wanted to go down that journey with one of the, I would say the kind of more well-known groups, especially in the UK, they generally don't budge into how the product's standardized. Where cloud billing really supports us to make sure our customer is the focal point. Cloud billing is we're their customer. They understand that our customers are paying if it goes wrong and if the data is wrong. So at the start, I think we were on something else, and we got with cloud billing and had just a chat, and that chat ended up in a partnership. I wasn't actually expecting to change from our current provider at the time, and that's the truth. And the team know that cloud billing, and actually through that conversation, and then the work. I mean, it's a couple of years on now, and here we are.
I guess, I mean, you might not know this, but I am not an expert in billing. But what I do recognise is that cloud billing, that's all you do. For the last 20 odd years, you've been doing billing systems, not just for the cloud, but for other platforms. Day in, day out, you do billing.
Yes. That's the core of what we do. That's where we excel in. And there's a beauty in how boring of a concept it can be. But the interesting thing, it is really complex. It is really challenging. And it is core for everybody. Without invoices, there's no business.
Yeah.
Right. We are bang on time. Question from Wesley. Yes. So the recording, Wesley, will be on the IT Europa site. And if you are a subscriber, we'll send you out a reminder via the interweb. If you do want to reach out to both Simon or Marion, they're all on the power of LinkedIn. And they can reach out to you that way. Perfect. Any channel partner who is any registered channel partner will receive a voucher. That's a question as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you both for your time. Saf, I can't call you Simon. Marion, thank you both for your time and answering all the questions with such candor. I'm going to end the poll. So thank you both.
Well, thank you, Will. Been lovely.
Wonderful.
It was lovely.
So I'm Will Garside here at IT Europa, and thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you again, hopefully, very, very soon. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.